Welcome, curious minds, to another deep dive.
Yeah.
Today, we're stepping into some truly unsettling territory. We'll be exploring three profoundly disturbing mysteries that remain stubbornly unsolved.
Yeah, these are the kind of cases that stick with you.
Absolutely. Cases where the truth just seems out of reach.
Yeah.
Leaving behind these really chilling questions, a real sense of unease. We're talking about real-life horror stories, the kind that really challenge how we think about justice, about finding closure.
Exactly. And these aren't just like typical cold cases. They're stark reminders of how fast things can go from totally normal to incredibly dark.
Yeah.
They really make you confront that sometimes the answers we want, well, they just aren't there. Or maybe someone doesn't want them found.
Okay, so let's dive into the first one. It's a story that starts with so much promise, but then takes this incredibly perplexing, nightmarish turn. The mysterious death of Jonathan Luna.
Right.
So Jonathan Luna, born back in October 65, grew up in the South Bronx, actually in the Patterson housing projects. Humble beginnings. But even from the start, his intelligence, his drive, it was obvious. He worked his way through Fordham University, got his law degree with distinction from Chapel Hill. I mean, really impressive.
Definitely.
By 1999, he's an assistant United States attorney in Baltimore, a real rising star. And he was finally able to give his parents this comfortable life they'd, only dreamed of before.
That's the American dream story right there.
It really is. But then 2003 hits, and this inspiring story just takes a sinister turn. Jonathan was deep into this high-profile narcotics case, right?
Yeah, big one.
But these other, much more troubling allegations started popping up. Turns out around $36,000 had gone missing from a bank robbery case he'd handled the year before.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. And despite his, perfect record up till then, Jonathan suddenly finds himself under suspicion. And it's worse when they look at his personal finances, $25,000 in credit card debt, and this unexplained $10,000 cash deposit.
Oof, that doesn't look good.
Not at all. So these corruption allegations, potentially career-ending stuff, are just hanging over him while he's trying to work this major case.
You have to understand the kind of pressure that puts on someone, especially an assistant U.S. attorney. It's not just a legal fight.
No.
It's like your entire identity, your reputation, public trust. It's all collapsing. That's a massive psychological weight, utterly consuming.
Absolutely. So let's track his last hours, which are just bizarre. Wednesday, December 3rd, 2003. Jonathan had gone back to the courthouse after dinner, working late on plea deals for that drug case.
Right, burning the midnight oil.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Then, sometime after 11 p.m., he gets this urgent phone call. Apparently so urgent that he rushes out of his office, leaves his driving glasses behind.
Even though he's about to drive.
Even though he's about to start what ends up being this 200-mile round trip.
Yeah.
He leaves his glasses. So strange.
Yeah, that's a detail that jumps out.
His electronic trail tells this weird, fragmented story. First, he hits an I-95 toll booth in Delaware. Then there's a $200 ATM withdrawal near Newark. From there, he crosses the Delaware River toll bridge, gets onto the Pennsylvania Turnpike, and eventually buys gas around 3:20 a.m.
Still heading further away.
Still going. But it's what happens next, just after 4 a.m., that really twists everything.
Yeah.
His car gets off the turnpike at the Reading-Lancaster exit.
Okay.
But instead of using his Easy Pass, he pays cash. And the toll attendant, when they take the ticket, they notice flecks of blood on it.
Oh, man.
Blood that was later confirmed to be Jonathan's.
That single detail, it just shifts the whole narrative, doesn't it? For an investigator, finding blood on that ticket means he was already hurt or, actively struggling before he even got to where he ended up.
Exactly.
It strongly suggests whatever awful thing happened was already underway, maybe even happening in the car with him as he's driving through states. It's not just an accident waiting to happen. It sounds like a mobile crime scene.
It screams foul play. Absolutely screams it. So barely an hour later, around 5 a.m., an employee shows up for work at the Sensenig and Weaver Well Drilling Company headquarters. This is in Denver, Pennsylvania.
Right.
They see this red light shining from some trees behind the building. Thinks maybe it's a drunk driver who went off the road. So they go to check it out.
Yeah.
And they find a car driven into a stream. And there, face down in the water, still in his suit, is Jonathan Luna. Lifeless. His ID card still around his neck.
Oh, God.
The autopsy findings were just horrific and confusing. He had a head injury, bruises on his chest and neck, and unbelievably over 30 stab wounds.
30.
Over 30. Inflicted by a small 3-inch pocket knife. But the official cause of death, drowning. He had his water in his lungs.
Drowning after being stabbed that many times.
Yeah. So the Pennsylvania authorities, the Lancaster County Sheriff's Office, and 2 different coroners, they looked at all this and quickly declared it an obvious homicide.
Makes sense.
Their evidence seemed solid. They found a second blood type at the scene, not Jonathan's, so a partial print from someone else. Plus, there was grainy gas station footage from his drive that seemed to show him with another man.
So multiple pieces of evidence pointing to murder.
It seemed clear-cut, right? Jonathan Luna was murdered.
This is where it gets really strange and honestly, pretty controversial. Despite all this clear evidence pointing to homicide, the FBI steps in, takes over the investigation, and issues this completely different conclusion. Jonathan Luna committed suicide.
Just like that, overriding the local findings.
Exactly. A sudden, absolute override.
Yeah.
And given the conflicting evidence, it immediately raises serious questions about, the process, transparency,
Yeah.
what was going on.
Right. So the FBI lays out their case for suicide. They point to a lack of defensive wounds. Their theory was maybe he was attacked in the back seat, close quarters, couldn't fight back easily.
Okay.
And those numerous stab wounds, the shallow ones, they call them hesitation marks. Cuts someone might make if they're thinking about suicide but are hesitant.
I've heard that term.
They even gave a motive, his supposed guilt over that missing $36,000, suggesting he killed himself rather than face the shame, the consequences.
So the official story became suicide driven by guilt.
That became the official story.
Yeah.
But it just doesn't sit right, does it? It immediately brings up so many questions that are still hanging out there, like, why pick such an incredibly painful, drawn-out way to die? 36 cuts with a tiny knife, then drowning yourself in shallow water.
It seems elaborately brutal for a suicide.
Right. And if you're planning to end your life, why take out $200 from an ATM just hours before?
Good point.
And maybe the biggest question, why drive 100 miles out of your way across state lines to this remote Crete in the middle of nowhere just to die? None of it adds up.
So given all these massive inconsistencies, the huge difference between what local investigators found and what the FBI declared, and then the fact that the coroner's records got sealed, you have to ask, what exactly did the FBI know that pointed so strongly to suicide? Or maybe the question is, what were they trying to hide? The whole thing really undermines confidence.
It absolutely does.
Yeah.
Okay, let's shift gears. Our next deep dive takes us to this tiny, isolated community. A place where one brutal act just shattered its peaceful image. We're going to Weldon, California.
Very different setting.
Very different. Home to Dana Dostal and Dale Hay, who live there with Dale's young son. Weldon has fewer than 3,000 people, basically zero crime. Everyone knows everyone.
Yeah.
It sounds like, the definition of a quiet, safe place.
Almost idyllic.
Until January 3rd, 2006. Dana, she worked as a bank teller, was driving home from work. And as she's on this isolated road, she notices this light-colored, full-size pickup truck with a camper shell acting weird behind her.
Okay, already unsettling.
Totally. Then it turns into this terrifying cat-and-mouse game. The truck driver slams on his brakes right in front of her, then starts tailgating her super aggressively. Dana's freaking out, obviously. She's speeding up, faking turns, trying desperately to lose this guy and not lead him back to her house. Finally, she thinks she's shaken him.
Thank God.
But the relief just doesn't last. As she pulls into her own driveway, she sees those same headlights reappear at the end of her street. The truck is back. She panics, scrambles out of her car, bolts into the house. Dale's 9-year-old son comes to the door to greet her, and he later said the truck drove off as soon as the driver saw him.
That feeling, being hunted, and then having the threat follow you right to your home, your safe space, that's profoundly violating. It completely shatters your sense of security, even if they don't come inside. It leaves a deep scar.
You can only imagine. So, despite being terrified, Dana and Dale try to get back to their evening. Dana's doing laundry, Dale's cooking dinner, trying to pretend things are normal.
Trying to reclaim some normalcy.
Yeah. But then that fragile piece is just shattered again. Dale's son yells out, "Dad, there's someone outside."
Yeah.
The truck is back, parked right there, facing their house, flashing its light.
Taunting them.
Exactly, just brazenly taunting them. Dale, understandably, is furious and fiercely protective. He storms outside, the truck speeds off.
Yeah.
But only for a little while, it comes back again.
This guy's relentless, still enraged, not willing to let this go. Dale marches out into the front yard again. The truck tries to take off again, and this time, Dale jumps in his Jeep and follows them. No hesitation.
Oh, boy.
Dana's worry just skyrockets into full panic. She puts on a movie for her and Dale's son, trying to distract them, trying to hope Dale will be back any minute. But the movie ends, and Dale still isn't back. She knows she has to go look for him.
That sinking feeling.
Her search ends tragically. Just about a mile from their house, she finds Dale's Jeep crashed into a farmer's fence. Dale's slumped in the driver's seat. He'd been shot once in the head.
Oh my God.
They rushed him to the hospital, but he was pronounced dead on arrival.
The sheer audacity of that murder happening in such a remote, low-crime place like Weldon is particularly chilling. It immediately makes you wonder, right? Was this some incredibly bold outsider who just happened to be there? Or was this someone local, someone who knew the area, maybe knew Dana and Dale's routine? In a place where everyone knows everyone, that kind of violence feels even more personal, more baffling. The whole community was just reeling. Dale was described by everyone as kind, patient, well-liked. Dana couldn't think of anyone who would want to hurt them.
No known enemies.
None.
Yeah.
Yet in this isolated valley where, like Dana said, everybody knows everybody, the killer was never identified. The case just went cold after 2006.
Just vanished.
Leaving behind this awful reality. Someone who would stalk a woman and then murder the man who tried to protect her is still out there, free. It's just a dark cloud over a place that used to feel so safe.
Truly disturbing.
Okay, for our final deep dive today, we're looking at a case that is just horrific, bizarre. It almost seems impossible that it happened in this quiet, picture-perfect setting. We're talking about Russell and Shirley Dermond.
I remember this one. It was deeply unsettling.
Russell was 88, a World War II vet. Shirley was 87. They were living this comfortable, peaceful retirement in Edenton, Georgia, a small town right on Lake Oconee. Married for ages, really active in their community, well known. They even had this annual Kentucky Derby party they always went to at their neighbor's house.
Sounds like a lovely life.
It really did. But then, May 2014, the day of the Derby party comes. And the Dermonds, who never missed it, they don't show up.
Unusual.
Very unusual. Friends were immediately concerned, but, hoped maybe there was a simple reason. It wasn't until almost a week after Russell was last seen that a neighbor got really worried and decided to check on them properly. No answer at the door. So the neighbor tries the doorknob. It was unlocked.
Oh, no.
And what that neighbor found inside their spacious garage was just beyond horrifying. Russell Dermond's body was lying there in a pool of blood. His head had been cut off.
Yeah.
It was gone.
Gone.
Yeah. Nowhere to be found.
Wow. Finding a headless body, that's designed to shock, to terrify. From an investigative perspective, it immediately signals something far beyond a simple robbery or a fight gone bad.
Right.
It often points to something deeply personal, maybe symbolic, could be trying to hide identity, sure, but it could also be the killer taking a trophy. And that suggests a really specific, really perverse kind of psychology.
You can only imagine the scene. This quiet little town suddenly swarming with police. The house is sealed off, Shirley Dermond is missing, and Russell's head is gone. Investigators immediately thought maybe it was taken as some kind of sick trophy.
A terrifying possibility.
There were no signs of forced entry, nothing seemed to be stolen, police had no clear motive. It looked like an execution, but why?
No obvious reason at all.
The search for Shirley then became this huge, intensive operation, got national media attention. Then, a week later, the grim discovery. Fishermen found her body floating in Lake Oconee, not far from their home.
Oh, dear God.
Whoever killed her had tried to weigh her body down with concrete blocks, but somehow she'd broken free. The forensic examiners figured out she'd been killed by blunt force trauma, hit with some kind of object, and crucially, they determined she hadn't been killed inside the house.
So a second crime scene, or at least she was moved after being killed.
Exactly, suggesting this wasn't spontaneous. It points to a second location, or at least a second stage, in what looks like a meticulously planned double murder.
Removing the head. Practically speaking, yeah, it could be to hide bullet evidence if, say, a small caliber weapon was used and the bullet didn't exit. But when you add Shirley being found elsewhere, killed differently, it suggests a highly organized, very determined killer. The fact there was no forced entry, nothing stolen, it really points towards either the Dermonds knew their killer, or the killer was extremely skilled at getting in unnoticed. Either way, it pushes robbery off the table and makes it seem much more personal, much more targeted.
But targeted by who?
Yeah.
Despite this massive investigation questioning everyone, digging through finances, no clear answers came up. Russell used to own several Hardee's restaurants. He was wealthy. Maybe he made enemies in business. But nobody close to them could point to anyone specific.
No obvious suspects.
And Shirley was just his beloved housewife, loved gardening, played bridge. Why would anyone target them in such a brutal, bizarre way? Who could do this to a harmless elderly couple? It's baffling. In 2016, their son, Keith, spoke out. He wanted answers, of course, but his words sounded almost resigned. He said, "It's very hard to catch somebody when you don't even know their motive. You have no clue as to what you're looking for."
That's heartbreaking.
He even threw out the idea of a serial killer, noting that, a lot of the time serial killers are very hard to catch. They know what they're doing. Now, 7 years after this horrific crime, the killer, or killers, are still out there, just leaving behind this awful memory of brutality and a community totally haunted by questions.
Unbelievable. Still unsolved.
So as we kind of wrap up here and think about these three cases, Jonathan Luna, Dale Hay, the Dermans, you really see these disturbing threads connecting them, don't you?
Yeah, you do.
This shocking intrusion of just extreme violence into what seemed like ordinary, peaceful lives. These baffling inconsistencies in the investigations, especially, when the official story seemed to clash with pretty compelling evidence. And just the agony, the enduring agony of unanswered questions for the families, for the communities left behind. These stories are just such stark reminders of the darkness that can sort of lurk unseen right under the surface of everything.
Yeah.
Shattering lives, leaving these mysteries.
And if you think about the bigger picture, these kinds of cases, they really force us to question official narrative sometimes, to accept that the truth, well, sometimes it stays hidden. Maybe hidden in plain sight, or maybe deliberately kept from view.
Yep.
They make us face the limits of our justice system and the really uncomfortable possibility that sometimes the full story just never comes out. We're just left with uncertainty.
And sometimes, maybe the most terrifying monsters aren't the ones we imagine in the dark, but the ones who walk right alongside us, Their secrets just buried under all this silence and uncertainty.
A chilling thought.
It really is. Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive. If these unsettling tales stirred something in you, maybe made you think, please do consider hitting that like button, sharing this deep dive with others who might be interested, and subscribing to our channel, Horror Docx, for more explorations into the chilling and the unknown.